Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are standing at the edge of a storm-battered island where the wind tastes like salt and secrets. The rain lashes against your cheeks, and somewhere beyond the black cliffs, the ocean roars with the fury of 1,000 ancient tempests. But what you notice most isn't the sea, it's that strange rhythmic croaking that rises and falls with the wind, a sound that no ordinary frog could make. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see glowing eyes staring back at you from the shadows. You probably won't survive out here, you know. This is the kind of night when legends are born, and when fools like us go missing. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along a narrow path that clings to the cliffside like a frayed thread. The storm churns overhead, and that croaking, deep hollow, almost human, seems to come from everywhere at once. Imagine an entire choir of frogs, each the size of a house cat, singing their strange hymn to the storm. That's what the old islanders claimed anyway. They said that on nights like this, the mountain frog's voice could summon the clouds or drive them away depending on its mood. Historians still debate whether these islanders actually recorded the frog's calls in their early chants or if the connection was purely symbolic. The wind tugs at your coat as you reach a hollow where the path widens and you catch your breath. Below, the surf smashes into jagged rocks, sending up bursts of silver foam that glow in the lightning's brief glare. And there, just for a second, you see it. A squat, dark shape perched on a boulder. Huge eyes. A glistening back? The mountain frog. Or so you think. Maybe it's just a trick of the night, but the call starts up again louder, deeper, as if the earth itself is singing through this creature. And you realize this is why the people here once listened to frogs more than they listened to their chiefs. Speaking of odd facts, did you know that some frogs today can actually change the tone of their croak to mimic the environment? The mountain frog, if it existed as described in the legends, probably had some similar ability using the echoes of the volcanic cliffs to amplify its song, until it felt like the island itself was alive with sound. Your fingers brush the worn stone of an ancient marker half buried in moss. A carved frog, simple but deliberate, stares up at you with bulging eyes. Its mouth seems twisted in a grin, or maybe a warning. You remember that the elders told tales of nights when the frog's song grew so powerful that even the wind seemed to hesitate as if listening. A joke floats into your mind. You wonder if this frog was the island's first rock star, croaking out hits that drew an audience of clouds and lightning. You move on boots slipping in the mud and the storm intensifies. The calls come faster now, layered in strange harmonies that bounce off the cliffs and race along the valley. You can almost see the villagers of old huddled in their huts, wide-eyed, clutching charms carved from bone, hoping the frogs would sing the storm away. Some said the frogs' chorus could bring rain to parched fields. Others whispered that the frogs called the storm down on the island to cleanse it of invaders. Nobody really agreed. The islanders probably argued about it as much as we argue today about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Lightning forks across the sky, illuminating the dark crags above. You pause beneath an overhang, the carved frog marker still heavy in your thoughts. Historians still debate whether these ancient stone markers were mere boundary posts or part of a larger spiritual network designed to channel the frog's protective power across the island. Either way, the markers survived centuries of storms and earthquakes, their frog symbols worn but defiant. As the rain sheets down and the storm rages on, you realize you've started matching your steps to the rhythm of the frog's calls. There's something hypnotic about it. The beat of the storm, the croak of the frogs, the pulse of your own racing heart, all blending into one ancient symphony that feels older than the island itself. The mountain frog may have been just an animal once, but tonight in this storm it feels like the soul of the island is singing through it, daring you to listen, daring you to understand. And somewhere deep inside, as the storm howls and the frogs sing on, you wonder if you had to choose between trusting the wisdom of the chiefs or the voice of a frog. Which would you pick? The storm calms only slightly as you press on boots squelching through mud and moss. The narrow path twists upward, leading you toward the volcanic ridge that looms over the island like some ancient sleeping beast. The air smells of wet stone and charred earth, and the mist thickens as you climb. You can't see more than a few steps ahead, but that doesn't stop you. Not tonight. Because tonight you're chasing the memory of a frog. A frog that, if legend speaks true, changed the destiny of this island forever. Your hands grip the cold rock as you scramble higher, the ground slick with rain. The climb isn't easy. The ridge is steep, broken by sudden drops and hidden crevices, as if the mountain itself resents your presence. A nervous laugh slips out. You mutter that at least the frogs didn't build staircases. The mist swirls around you, and the frogs' voices seem to guide your path, croaking softly from somewhere just beyond sight. It's said that the ancestors of the mountain frog made their home here first in these high volcanic pools fed by the rains and the breath of the mountain. Small, bright-eyed creatures with mottled skins that glistened like molten stone. The old songs claim that these frogs could leap higher than any warrior could vanish into steam, as if turning to mist. Historians still debate whether these descriptions were based on real animals long since extinct, or whether the frogs were always spirits of the mountain, imagined by desperate minds seeking protection from nature's fury. You pause at a ledge where the rock splits to reveal a pool of water, its surface black and still as obsidian. The mist parts for a moment, and in that brief window you see the reflection of the mountain above, and at its crown a shape that might be the frog or might just be a trick of light. The frog's calls echo here soft and hollow, as if the very stones remember their voices. The islanders of old believed these ridges were sacred ground. The first storytellers carved small frogs into the rocks here, leaving them as offerings. Some of these carvings still survive faint outlines worn down by time and weather. You run your fingers over one, its body squat, its limbs spread wide as if caught mid-leap. It's hard not to feel small under the weight of that history. Like you've stumbled into a forgotten cathedral where nature is both God and congregation. Here's something odd. Modern scientists studying the island's amphibians once found a species of frog that could survive in sulfurous springs, its skin resistant to the acidic waters. It wasn't the mountain frog of legend, but you can see how such a creature might inspire the tales. After all, what's more magical than an animal that thrives where others perish? You climb higher, breath coming fast, the air thinning with altitude. The mist thickens, clinging to you like damp cloth, and the ground trembles, slightly underfoot, just the mountain reminding you who's in charge. The frog's calls grow louder again, a chorus that rises and falls with the rhythm of the wind. You wonder what it must have been like centuries ago for those who first heard that sound on nights like this. When the mountain was active, its molten heart rumbling beneath their feet, and the frogs' voices carried through the dark like a promise or a threat. The trail narrows, forcing you to press close to the cliff face. The stone is rough and cold, wet with rain and mountain tears. You mutter that the frogs could have picked a nicer neighborhood, maybe somewhere with less chance of falling to your doom. But of course, that's the point, isn't it? The mountain frog wasn't a creature of comfort. It was a creature of the heights, of places where only the brave or the foolish dared to tread. Historians still debate whether these climbs were rites of passage for the ancient islanders. Some believe young warriors were sent up here to carve the frog symbol into the stone, proving their courage. Others think these carvings marked boundaries, sacred lines no enemy could cross without invoking the mountain's wrath. Either way, each step you take feels like you're walking through history, one slippery stone at a time. At last, you reach a plateau where the wind tears the mist away for a heartbeat, and you see the island spread below you. A dark mass surrounded by the silver sea, its shores lashed by fading rain. And at the heart of it all, the mountain frog's domain. You can almost hear it whisper through the wind, guardian spirit, watcher of storms. a symbol born not in comfort but in challenge. And you're just a visitor here, a climber chasing shadows and echoes. But for a moment, as the frog's chorus fills the air, you feel as if you belong. The rain softens to a drizzle as you rest atop the plateau, your breath curling in the damp air. The wind hums through the jagged stones, carrying with it the low pulsing rhythm of the frog's calls. It's hypnotic, almost musical, like the island itself is humming along to some ancient melody only it remembers. You rub your arms against the chill and listen, really listen. The frogs' voices are layered, a kind of harmony that seems too deliberate for chance. You can almost believe what the old islanders claimed, that the frog's song could command the sea. Imagine standing here centuries ago barefoot and cloaked in bark cloth, with the waves crashing below and the sky dark with storm clouds. The islanders would gather on these heights, faces turned to the heavens, their chants mingling with the frogs' chorus. They believed the frogs were messengers to the storm spirits, able to plead for rain when crops withered, or for mercy when tempests threatened to tear the island apart. Historians still debate whether these gatherings were early forms of organized religion or simply communal desperation disguised as ceremony. Either way, the frogs' voices were central to it all. You shift your gaze toward the sea where the breakers gleam pale in the moonlight. The frog's croaking seems to weave into the sound of the surf, rising and falling with each wave. You wonder if that's why the islanders believed the frogs could summon. The tides could beckon the rain clouds or drive them away. There's even an old legend of a chief who tried to silence the frogs to stop the storms, only to have his village washed away by the sea. Let that be a lesson: never try to outsing a frog. The path leads downward now, skirting the edge of a ravine where water rushes in silver streams toward the sea. You follow it, boots slipping on the mossy stones, the frogs' voices your constant companions. Here and there, you spot more of the ancient carvings, frogs etched into fallen boulders, their eyes wide, their legs bent as if ready to leap. The lines are crude but deliberate, the work of hands that believed in what they carved. An odd fact for you: in some parts of the world, frogs have been used as natural barometers. People claim their croaks grow louder and more frequent when rain is near. Maybe the islanders observed something similar. Or maybe they just liked the idea of frogs being in charge of the weather. After all, if you're going to pick a storm god, why not pick one that sings? You come to a spot where the path widens into a shelf of stone. A fire once burned here long ago. You can tell by the blackened rocks arranged in a circle, by the fragments of shell and bone scattered in the moss. You can almost see the figures of ancient islanders, huddled around the flames, faces flickering in the firelight, eyes wide as the frogs' voices rose around them. Did they feel comforted, or were they afraid? Unsure whether the frog's song would bring mercy or destruction. Historians still debate whether the frog's chorus was ever recorded in early island instruments. Drums carved from hollow, logs, flutes made from bone. Some believe the rhythm of those instruments mimicked the frogs as a way to honor, or maybe even control, the forces the frogs represented. Others argue the connection is purely symbolic, no more than wishful thinking, layered onto fragments of history. Either way, the frog song lives on in the wind and the rain, in the memory of these stones. You crouch by the fire circle, tracing a finger along the grooves of a frog carving half hidden in the moss. Its eyes stare up at you, wide and solemn, as if waiting for you to understand some ancient truth. The frog's calls grow louder again, echoing off the cliffs, filling the night with their strange, mournful music. It's easy to see how the islanders might have believed the frogs were speaking to the storm or to them. And for just a moment, as the wind shifts and the clouds part to reveal the full moon, you think you hear words in the croaking, a message carried on the night air. Something about the sea, something about the rain. Or maybe that's just your tired mind lulled by the rhythm of the island's oldest song. Either way, you listen. Because out here on this storm-washed stone with the frogs' voices rising around you, it feels like the only sensible thing to do. The night deepens as you pick your way along the ridge, the frogs chorus rising and falling, like the breath of the mountain itself. The moon, full and pale as bone, drifts in and out of the mist, casting silver patterns on the rocks. The wind has calmed for now, leaving only the sound of your footsteps and the steady haunting croaks that echo from the cliffs. You pause near the mouth of a cave, the entrance dark as a swallowed scream, and you feel that familiar tug of curiosity mixed with the sharper edge of dread. You step inside, boots crunching on gravel and scattered fragments of ancient pottery. The air is damp and cool, heavy with the smell of wet stone and something faintly sweet, old moss maybe, or the memory of burned resin. The frogs' voices drift through the entrance, softer now, as if respecting the sacred silence of this place. You run your hands along the walls, fingers tracing grooves worn by time. And there they are, images carved into the rock by hands that trembled with fear, reverence, or both. Frogs everywhere. Some crouch as if ready to leap. Others sit tall, their eyes huge, their bodies marked with strange patterns that might represent storm clouds or the ripples of water. Beneath the frogs, crude figures of people kneel, arms raised in what might be prayer or surrender. You can almost see the firelight flicker across these walls centuries ago, casting the frogs' shadows in monstrous shapes that danced across the stone. Historians still debate whether these carvings were intended to tell a story, serve as warnings, or mark the cave as a place of shelter during storms. You kneel near one of the larger figures, a frog etched so deeply that its outlines are still sharp despite the centuries. Its mouth is wide open in a permanent croak. Its eyes seem to glimmer in the faint light that filters through the cave's entrance. You can't help but smile, imagining some ancient artist frustrated with the chief's demands, deciding to make the frog look like it's shouting at everyone for being fools. Maybe that's why the frogs were seen as sacred. They were the only ones brave enough to argue with the storm. An odd fact for your collection: some species of frogs are known to produce calls that can be heard for over a mile. Imagine that sound magnified by volcanic cliffs carried by storm winds, until it feels like the very air hums with the frogs' voices. Small wonder the islanders believed the frogs could speak to the gods. You sit back on your heels, letting your eyes adjust to the dimness. The cave narrows at the back, the walls closing in like the throat of some great beast. You imagine the people who once came here hiding from the storms, whispering prayers to the frog spirit, hoping the cave's stone mouth would protect them from the fury outside. And always the frog's song filling the night, a reminder that the island had its own guardian watching over it. Outside, the chorus swells again, louder now, as if the frogs sense your presence and approve. Or maybe they're warning you. The moonlight shifts, casting new shadows across the carvings. For a heartbeat, the frogs on the wall seem to move, to leap from the stone and join their living kin in the night. You blink, heart pounding, and the vision fades, leaving only the cold, silent rock. Historians still debate whether these caves served as burial chambers, sanctuaries, or ceremonial sites. No one really knows. The truth is lost to time, like so much else on this island. But the frogs remain carved in stone, singing in the dark, their voices as much a part of the land as the wind and the sea. You step out of the cave, the night air cool against your face, and the frogs' chorus welcomes you back as one of their own. The path stretches ahead, lit by moonlight and shadowed by the towering cliffs. You take a deep breath, the scent of rain and moss filling your lungs, and follow the song of the mountain frog deeper into the island's forgotten heart. The path descends sharply, now winding like a serpent down the mountainside. You slip more than once, grabbing at roots and rocks, the mud slick beneath your boots. The frog's chorus follows you, growing louder again, filling the valleys below with its strange, pulsating rhythm. There's something about the sound tonight that raises the hairs on your neck, like a warning or lament or both. The air hums with electricity, the sky heavy with clouds that churn in the moonlight. And you remember the old tale, the one every island child hears before they can even walk the storm that swallowed a village whole. You reach a broad ledge And there it lies beneath you, the lowland where the village once stood. Nothing remains now but jagged stumps of ancient posts and the faint outlines of foundations barely visible beneath creeping moss and stone. The sea crashes against the shore beyond, and the wind brings with it the salt sting of the past. You close your eyes for a moment and listen, letting the frogs' voices guide your imagination back to that night long ago. Picture it. The village simple huts of woven reeds and driftwood clustered around a central fire. The people gathered faces, drawn with fear as the wind began to scream through the trees and the rain fell in sheets that blinded and deafened. And through it all, louder than the storm, the frogs sang, a deep, unified voice that seemed to rise from the earth itself as if the mountain frog was calling out to the sea, the sky, the very heart of the storm. The legend says the storm came like a living thing. Waves higher than the trees, winds that tore roofs from huts and flung them into the blackness. The people fled or tried to, but the sea claimed them, swallowed the village whole, except for one place. The small shrine of stone that stood on a rise above the huts where the carved image of the mountain frog crouched watching. The storm passed it by as if the spirit within the stone held back the fury of the sea. Historians still debate whether this story grew from a real disaster, perhaps a tsunami or a cyclone, or whether it was a cautionary tale to remind people of the frog's sacred power. There's no way to know, but the villagers who came after never rebuilt on that spot. The lowland was left to the frogs and the ghosts of the drowned. You pick your way down to the edge of the ruined village, the frogs' chorus rising and falling around you. The stones of the shrine are still there, worn smooth by centuries of rain and wind, but the frog's carving remains, its eyes wide, its mouth open in silent song. You crouch before it, tracing the grooves with your fingers, feeling the cold strength of the rock. The frogs sing louder now, as if urging you to remember to see beyond the ruined huts and broken dreams to the deeper truth beneath. Here's an odd fact on some Pacific islands: frogs were once believed to predict earthquakes. Their sudden silences or frantic calls seen as warnings. You wonder if on that long-ago night the frog's song was not a plea to the storm, but a cry of alarm, a voice of the land itself trying to warn the people of the doom rushing toward them. You stand wiping the rain from your face and let your gaze sweep across the empty lowland. The frog's chorus rolls like thunder through the valleys, a song of memory, of loss, of survival. And you realize with a shiver that, in a way, the storm never truly ended. It lives on in the frogs' voices, in the wind, in the bones of the mountain that still watches over the sea. The path beckons you onward up a rise where the shrine stands silent and proud against the night. You step carefully, feeling the weight of history with every stride, and as you climb, the frog song follows a reminder that even in destruction, something endures. The ground rises beneath your feet, carrying you from the ruins of the drowned village toward a ridge crowned with ancient stones. The air shifts here lighter, as if the mountain itself breathes easier above the place where the sea once raged. The frog's chorus softens for a moment, their calls drifting like mist through the night. You pass between two leaning pillars of rock, gatekeepers of this sacred ground, worn smooth by time, carved long ago with faint shapes that only your fingers can truly see. And at the heart of it all stands the oldest of the shrines, the birthmark of the mountain guardian. You step closer, the soft squelch of your boots lost beneath the rising song of the frogs. The shrine is little more than a stacked cairn, a crude altar of black stone, but balanced at its peak is a single figure, weathered but unmistakable. The frog. Its broad back hunches against the wind, its legs folded beneath it as if forever poised between stillness and motion. The storm had spared this place, the stories say, because the mountain frog claimed it made it sacred, declared itself protector of the land, and those wise enough to honor it. You imagine the scene in the storm's aftermath. The survivors, few shaken. Their homes gone, their kin lost. Climbing to this high place, their faces streaked with salt and grief, kneeling before the frog's altar. The first prayer spoken not to the gods of sky or sea, but to the small, fierce spirit that had guarded the mountain's heart. Historians still debate whether this moment marked the birth of the frog as a formal island deity, or whether the belief had been growing for generations, the storm merely sealing its place in the people's minds. Either way, from that night on, the frog was no longer just a creature of the cliffs. It was the mountain's voice, its shield, its spirit. The shrine draws you in the stones, cold beneath your hands as you steady yourself. Around the base, you spot offerings left in ages past, fragments of bone charms, beads made from shell pieces of obsidian napped into rough frog shapes. You lift one, the stone slick with rain, and for a moment you can almost hear the voices of those who placed it here. Whispered thanks. Pleas for mercy. Promises never to forget. You set the charm back gently, not daring to disturb the balance of this place. Here's a curious fact to add to the night's oddities in certain frog species. The males are known to guard the eggs, even carrying the tadpoles on their backs to safer waters. Perhaps it's no wonder then that the islanders saw the frog as a guardian spirit, a creature that protected its own against all odds. The wind shifts again, and the frog's voices rise in unison as if recognizing your presence or perhaps simply welcoming the night's return to quiet after so much storm. You close your eyes, letting their song wash over you, a sound older than memory, older even than the mountain. The shrine seems to hum beneath your fingertips, the cold stone warming slightly as if sharing its strength. Historians still debate whether the mountain frog was ever represented in human form in early rituals. Did priests wear frog masks? Did dancers leap and crouch to mimic its movements during ceremonies? The evidence is scant, the truth blurred by time. But the spirit of the frog endures, carved in stone, sung in the frog's chorus, whispered in the wind that sweeps the mountain's flanks. You open your eyes as the first hints of dawn pale the eastern sky. The storm at last spent the island breathing easy once more. The shrine stands firm, a dark silhouette against the lightning horizon, the mountain frog keeping watch as it always has. And you feel a little smaller, a little humbler, standing in the presence of so much history, so much faith, so much survival. The path winds onward, deeper into the island's heart, and the frog's chorus urges you on, gentle now, a lullaby for the weary, a reminder that the journey is far from over. The sun creeps higher, casting a soft golden glow over the jagged ridges and mist-laced valleys. You follow the path downward now, your steps easier with the storm behind you and the frog's song steady at your side like an old friend's humming. The air is rich with the scent of wet earth and blooming ferns, and the world seems for a few fragile moments at peace. But as you round a bend, you spot them stone pillars toppled and half swallowed by vines, their surfaces etched with the familiar wide-eyed stare of the mountain frog. This is where the frog spirit leapt beyond the mountain and into the courts of kings. The ancient rulers of the island weren't content to leave the frog spirit on its lonely ridge. No, they claimed its power for themselves. You picture them cloaked in woven mats, their brows heavy with carved frog emblems, striding through their courts with the confidence of men who believed they held the storm's leash. The frog became a symbol of dominion over water, over flood, over the fickle blessings of rain. Historians still debate whether these kings truly believed in the frog's divine power or simply used its image to keep the people loyal. Either way, frog motifs spread like moss on stone, on staffs, on shields, on the lintels of great houses. You brush aside a tangle of fern to reveal a stone slab, its surface smoothed by time, but still bearing a faint outline, a king seated on a throne shaped like a frog's back, his hand raised as if commanding the waves. It's hard not to chuckle at the audacity. Imagine thinking you could sit on a frog and boss around the sea. But such was the belief, or at least the illusion, that kept the king's power afloat. Here's an odd fact for you to ponder: in certain cultures, Frogs were thought to possess charms that protected against drowning. Sailors sometimes carried tiny frog-shaped amulets carved from bone or shell, hoping these tokens would keep the sea's wrath at bay. Perhaps the kings of this island thought the same. If a small charm could help a fisherman, imagine what a giant frog symbol could do for a ruler. You step over a fallen pillar, its frog carving worn almost smooth, and continue toward what remains of the old court. The foundations of great halls lie hidden beneath thick moss, their outlines visible only to those who know where to look. You pause where a doorway once stood, the threshold, marked by twin frog figures carved in black stone. Their wide mouths seem to grin at your intrusion, or perhaps at the memory of all who once passed beneath them. Historians still debate whether these royal frog emblems were a genuine religious devotion or clever politics wrapped in sacred imagery. The kings claim the frog spirit guided their reigns, that its voice whispered counsel in the night, that its song called the rains to bless their fields, and filled their enemies' hearts with fear. Did the people believe it? Hard to say. But they carved the frog into everything from water jars to temple drums, so at the very least they respected the symbol. The frog's chorus rises again, filling the ruined court with a music older than kings, older than any throne. You stand there imagining the ceremonies that once echoed here, the chants, the stamping of feet, the beat of drums shaped to mimic the frog's calls. The rulers may be gone, their crowns lost to time, but the frog's song endures, a reminder that the true power always belonged to the mountain's small guardian, not the men who tried to claim it. You move on, leaving the broken court behind, the frog's voices carrying you toward the next bend in the path where more secrets of the island's spirit wait beneath the ferns and stone. The path narrows again, the forest pressing close, the frog's voices echoing between tree trunks like a chant that refuses to end. The air here is heavier, thick, with the scent of damp bark and the faint tang of ash from some ancient fire long forgotten. You duck beneath low branches, the leaves cold and slick against your skin, until the forest opens into a clearing where the ground is scarred by the remnants of old fires and scattered stones shaped like frogs. This is where you discover the tales of the frog's blood pact, a chapter of history both revered and feared. The warriors of the island, fierce and proud, believed the mountain frog spirit could bless their weapons and shield them in battle. Before great wars or desperate defenses against invaders, they gathered here beneath the gaze of stone frog idols and performed rites that bound them to the spirit's protection. You kneel by one such idol now, its stone slick with moss, its features softened by time, yet its eyes still seem to watch you wide and unblinking. You picture it, the warriors standing in a circle, the night alive with the frog's chorus, the flames casting long shadows that leapt and danced like spirits themselves. Each fighter held a charm, small frog-shaped, carved from bone or black volcanic glass, and dipped it into a bowl of dark liquid that shimmered in the firelight. Not blood, or so the elders claimed, but a potion of crushed berries, river clay, and the bitter sap of mountain plants. Historians still debate whether these rites involved true blood sacrifice, or whether the so-called blood pact was symbolic, meant to forge unity among the warriors without spilling a drop. You run your fingers along a fragment of one of those charms half buried in the soil. It's cool to the touch, the surface chipped, but the frog shape still clear. You wonder how many battles this tiny token witnessed, how many hands it passed through before being lost to time. The frog's chorus rises as if in answer, as if the spirit remembers each warrior who knelt here, each promise made beneath the mountain's silent gaze. An odd fact for your collection tonight. In some cultures, frog bones were once ground into powder and sprinkled on weapons or worn in pouches as talismans for strength and courage. No one knows if the islanders practiced anything so literal, but the symbolism of the frog as protector, as giver of power, is clear in every carving, every charm, every whispered story that clings to these stones. You move through the clearing, the ground soft underfoot, the frog's song wrapping around you like a cloak, The trees beyond stand tall and silent, centuries of wood and leaf that have witnessed more than any living soul. You imagine the warriors vanishing into that forest, their charms at their throats, their blades anointed in the frog's name, their hearts filled with courage or perhaps fear masked as faith. The mountain frog's spirit went with them, or so they believed, leaping ahead into battle, calling the rain to blind their enemies, stirring the mud to slow their foes. Historians still debate whether the frog's image was ever used to intimidate rival clans or invaders. Some say warriors painted their faces with frog patterns or wore masks shaped like the mountain guardian, hoping the sight would strike fear into the hearts of those who dared set foot on their shores. Others argue that the frog's power was too sacred to be used so openly, that its magic was quiet, hidden, woven into the very land rather than brandished like a weapon. The clearing falls silent for a moment, the frogs pausing their song, as if granting you a heartbeat to reflect. And in that quiet, you feel the weight of all those ancient oaths, all those warriors who stood here and trusted their lives to the spirit of a creature small but mighty, humble but fierce. Then the chorus swells again, filling the clearing, filling your mind, reminding you that the pact endures not in charms or weapons, but in the land itself. You step beyond the clearing, the path calling you onward, the frog's voices steady and strong behind you, guiding you deeper into the island's secrets. The forest thickens as you press onward, the path fading beneath a blanket of fallen leaves and creeping vines. The frog's chorus hums steadily behind you, a low, endless song that seems to seep from the ground itself. The air grows cooler, shaded by towering trees, whose gnarled roots twist like the fingers of giants grasping at the earth. And as you round a bend, you find yourself standing before the remnants of a place few dare speak of, the vanished frog priesthood. Ruins rise around you. Stone columns split by age, toppled altars choked with moss, and fragments of walls marked with the ever-present symbol of the frog. Here once the keepers of the mountain frog spirit lived and served. These priests were said to be the voice of the frog on earth, guardians of its rites, interpreters of its song. You walk slowly through the fallen temple, boots crunching on shattered tiles, and feel the weight of their absence. The frogs sing on, but their human servants are long gone. You imagine the temple as it might have been roofed in palm thatch, the walls painted with ochre and ash, the air thick with incense, and the chorus of frogs kept in sacred pools at the heart of the sanctuary. The priests moved in silence, faces hidden behind masks shaped like the mountain frog's head, their voices reserved for chants and prayers, offered only when the frogs themselves fell silent. Historians still debate whether this priesthood held true power over the island's chiefs or merely served as advisors, their influence spiritual rather than political. What is certain is that their disappearance left a void that no ruler or warrior ever truly filled. You brush aside a vine to reveal a broken mask stone, heavy, the eyes wide and empty, the mouth frozen mid-croak. You lift it carefully, feeling the cool weight in your hands, imagining the priest who once wore it, the prayers they spoke, the secrets they kept, and you wonder what happened to them. The stories say they vanished in a single night. The temple abandoned, the sacred pools dry. The frog spirit left to sing its own song without human voice to guide it. Some say a storm swept them away. Others whisper of betrayal of chiefs who feared the priest's power and turned on them. Historians still debate whether their end was violent or merely the slow decay of a forgotten faith. Here's an odd fact to consider while you stand among these ruins. In parts of the world, frogs have been associated with both creation and destruction. In some myths, they are bringers of life-giving rain. In others, omens of flood and disaster. The priesthood of the mountain frog seems to have walked that same line, honored as protectors, yet feared for the power they claim to wield. You step deeper into the temple's remains, the frog's song growing softer, as if respecting the silence of this place. The walls bear faint carvings, frogs with human hands, Men with frog eyes, symbols blurred by time but still potent with meaning. You can almost hear the priest's chants echoing through the corridors, mingling with the frogs' voices in a harmony meant to bind the spirit to the island to the storm to the will of the people. The path leads you at last to the edge of the ruins where the forest begins again dense and dark. The frog's chorus swells once more as if urging you onward away from this place of lost voices, lost faith, lost power. And you go stepping from the temple's shadow back into the embrace of the land. The frog spirit still watches over its song. Endless, its guardians gone, but not forgotten. The forest thickens once again as you follow a trail barely visible beneath the tangle of ferns and roots. The frog's song keeps pace with your steps rising and falling like the breath of the island itself. The air grows damp and the ground softens underfoot as you approach a hollow where water glistens black beneath the canopy. A sacred pond untouched by time, its surface still and silent, except for the occasional ripple of falling leaf or curious insect. The frog's chorus softens here, as if the very air demands reverence. This is where you uncover the mystery of the bones beneath the sacred pond. You kneel at the water's edge, the mud cool and slick beneath your fingers, and peer into its depths. The pond is small, no wider than a village square fed by hidden springs that bubble up from the mountain's heart. Beneath the dark surface, shapes glimmer in the dim light, fragments of pottery, the curve of a broken spear, and there half buried in silt, the pale glint of bone. The pond has long been a place of offerings where the islanders cast gifts to honor the mountain frog. But what lies beneath those gifts? What stories are hidden in the mud? The islanders tell of this pond as the heart of the frog's domain, a place where the spirit listens most closely to prayers, where its voice is loudest in the song of the frogs that line the banks. Yet beneath the offerings, archaeologists once uncovered human remains, bones jumbled with charm tools and frog-shaped carvings. Historians still debate whether these were the relics of sacrifice or merely burials, granted sacred protection beneath the frog's watchful gaze. Some claim the bones belong to those who gave themselves freely to the spirit seeking unity with the island's guardian. Others whisper of darker rites, of priests or chiefs who demanded a price for the frog's favor during times of famine or storm. You dip your hand into the pond, the water cold and smooth, and feel the silt stir beneath your fingers. You imagine the ceremonies that once took place here, the villagers gathering in silence, casting fry-so-shaped charms into the water, their faces lit by torchlight, the frog's song filling the night. You see the priests, masked and cloaked, stepping to the pond's edge to whisper prayers or cast offerings of their own. And perhaps in times of desperation, something more. An odd fact to ponder. As you sit by this ancient water, in some cultures, frogs were believed to guide the souls of the dead across the boundary between life and the afterlife. Maybe that's why the pond became a resting place, because the frog spirit was seen not only as protector of the living, but also as guide for the departed. You rise, brushing mud from your hands, and circle the pond, noting the scattered stones carved with the familiar frog emblem, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of rain. The frog's chorus swells, as if reminding you that the living still sing for those who lie beneath. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and moss, and you feel just for a moment as if the pond itself breathes with the memory of those who came before. Historians still debate whether the sacred pond marked the true center of the island's spiritual world, or if it was one of many sites linked in a web of ancient faith. The evidence is scattered, the truth lost to storms and time. But here, in this quiet hollow with the frog's voices all around you and the water dark and still at your feet, it feels as if you found the island's hidden heart, a place where the past lingers waiting to be heard. The path winds onward away from the pond, and you follow it, the frog's song steady behind you, guiding you deeper into the mysteries of the mountains, small, fierce guardian. The trail winds higher once more, the air thinning, the mist curling around your feet like pale fingers trying to slow your steps. The frog's chorus, ever present, seems to shift in tone here, deeper, more resonant, as if the land itself hums along. You crest a rise and pause, breath, catching at the sight that greets you, a broad plateau strewn with weathered stones where the shape of the mountain frog has been carved into the very earth. Its outline sprawls across the rock like a guardian stretched in eternal vigil, webbed toes cradling the island's contours. This is where the frog's image became more than symbol, where it grew into the spirit of the island itself. You walk its length, boots striking hollow echoes from the stone, tracing the lines that mark head, back, and limb. From here, the frog seems to hold the island in its grasp, its back rising with the mountain's curve, its gaze fixed upon the sea as if daring the storms to return. The people who carved this image, who spent lifetimes chiseling it into the rock, believed it marked the place where the spirit of the mountain frog merged with the land. The frog was no longer just a guardian of storms or bringer of rain. It was the island, and the island was the frog. Historians still debate whether this great carving was intended as a literal map, a sacred image to guide the spirits, or simply a monument of devotion. Some suggest it marked the boundaries of ancient lands, others that it was a kind of open-air temple where the people gathered to honor the spirit that watched over them. Whatever its purpose, it endures, a silent sentinel above the sea, its features softened by time but still defiant, still proud. You pause at the frog's head, where a hollow has been worn into the stone, as if generations of hands placed offerings here, smooth. Pebbles, frog-shaped charms, fragments of shell. You add a small stone of your own feeling. The cool weight settle into the hollow. And wonder how many travelers like you have stood here over the centuries hoping for a blessing, or perhaps just to be remembered by the land they loved. Here's an odd fact that might amuse you. In some ancient cultures, frogs were thought to represent the earth itself because they could move between water and land. They were seen as bridges between worlds. Fitting, isn't it, that the islanders chose such a creature to embody the soul of their home, caught as it was between mountain and sea, storm and calm. The frog's chorus rises now as if to acknowledge your offering, filling the plateau with their song. The sound rolls across the stone, weaving into the wind, carrying the memory of all who once stood here. You can almost see them, the priests in their masks, the warriors with their charms, the villagers with their hopes and fears, all gathered in the shadow of the great stone frog, all trusting in its strength. Historians still debate whether the frog's image was meant to protect the island from invasion, or simply to remind its people that their fates were bound together like the frog and the land. But standing here with the wind in your hair and the frog's song in your ears, the distinction hardly seems to matter. The frog watches still, the spirit endures, and the island breathes beneath its guardian's webbed hands. You turn at last, leaving the plateau behind, the carved frog stretched out in the mist, like a dream half remembered, the frog's chorus urging you onward, deeper into the island's ancient heart. The path slips downward again, swallowed by dense forest where the trees grow so close they seem to conspire against the sunlight. The frog's chorus follows you, threading through the undergrowth, a steady pulse beneath the rustle of leaves and the creak of old trunks. The air here is cooler, the scent of damp earth stronger, as if the forest itself is listening. And it is in this hidden place that you hear the story of the outsiders, the ones who mocked the frog, who mocked the island, and who learned, as all must, the cost of such folly. You emerge into a clearing, small and overgrown, where broken stones lie scattered like bones. Once this was a sacred site, a circle of standing stones carved with the frog's image, a place of quiet offerings and whispered prayers. But the stones are shattered now, their pieces buried beneath ferns and moss. This is what remains of the insult that stirred the spirit's wrath. The tale is old, told in many versions, but all agree on the heart of it. A group of explorers, strangers from across the sea, came to the island in search of riches or conquest. No one is quite sure anymore. They laughed at the frog's image, kicked over the stones, mocked the chants of the people, and called the spirit a myth, a superstition fit only for children. Historians still debate whether these events happened exactly as the stories tell, or whether time and fear shaped the tale to fit the island's warnings. But one fact remains: those explorers vanished. The storm that followed was like no other in living memory. You imagine the scene: the strangers standing in this clearing, weapons at their sides, their voices loud and careless. The islanders watching in silence, the frogs' chorus rising around them, the wind beginning to stir as if the land itself took offense, the first drops of rain falling heavy and cold. And then the storm, a fury of wind and water that tore the strangers' ships from their moorings, shattered their camp, and swept them into the sea's hungry embrace. None returned. The sea kept them as it keeps all who forget to show respect. An odd fact for tonight's collection: in some ancient seafaring cultures, frogs were painted on ships' prows to protect against storms and sea monsters. The outsiders might have done well to remember that, or perhaps they thought themselves too clever for such charms. You crouch by a fragment of one of the broken stones, the frog's carved eye still sharp despite the ruin. You trace its outline, feeling the roughness beneath your fingertips, and sense the weight of the story that clings to this place. The frogs sing on, not in anger, but as reminder, soft, insistent, eternal. The land forgives, perhaps, but it never forgets. Historians still debate whether the storm that destroyed the outsiders' camp was a natural tempest or the result of chance magnified by legend. But standing here with the frog's chorus in your ears and the ruined stones at your feet, it's easy to believe the island itself rose in defense of its guardian's honor. You leave the clearing with a quiet nod, the frog's song, a steady rhythm at your back, a guide and a warning both, as the forest closes around you once more. The path winds lower now, threading through gullies where the trees grow gnarled and close their branches, woven tight like the ribs of some ancient beast. The frog's chorus grows quieter, more mournful, as if they too remember what you are about to find. The air thickens with mist and the ground softens beneath your boots, the soil black and rich with the memory of storms. This is the place where the last giant mountain frog was seen. The place where the spirit's living form met its end, swallowed by a storm. No one forgot. You come upon a hollow ringed with stones half fallen and worn smooth by rain. In the center lies a shallow pool fed by trickles from the mountain's flanks. The water is dark, reflecting the gray sky above, and the frogs' voices drift over it like a sigh. This was once a place of pilgrimage where the faithful came to glimpse the mountain's guardian, where, so the stories say, the last of the giant frogs came down from its hidden heights to greet the people in their hour of need. You can almost see it. The villagers gathered at the pool's edge, eyes wide, hearts pounding as the great frog appeared through the mists, its skin mottled like wet stone, its eyes deep as the sea. They say it croaked once, a sound so loud it shook the leaves from the trees, and then the storm broke, a deluge that scoured the land, shattered huts, and tore away entire forests. And when dawn came, the frog was gone. Historians still debate whether this final storm was a real event, a cyclone perhaps, or an eruption's aftermath, or whether it grew in the telling, shaped by grief and awe, into the legend of the frog's last stand. You kneel at the pool's edge, your reflection rippling beside the shadows of overhanging branches. The frog's chorus is soft here, gentle as a lullaby, as if mourning the loss of their ancient kin. The pool's surface stirs in the breeze, and for a heartbeat you imagine you see the shape of the giant frog beneath the water, waiting, watching. But it's only the play of light and leaf, the tricks of a weary mind. Here's an odd fact to color your thoughts. Some modern herpetologists speculate that ancient frog species could have reached impressive sizes on isolated islands where predators were few and niches empty. Could the mountain frog have been one of these giants, its memory preserved in the stones, its spirit, in the song of its smaller cousins. You rise, brushing damp earth from your hands, and let your gaze sweep the hollow. The stones stand silent, the pool dark and deep, the frogs' voices a gentle echo of what once was. Historians still debate whether this place was a true gathering site or whether the story of the last frog is a parable, a reminder that even the greatest guardians can fall. Either way, the memory lingers, carved into the land, carried in the song, whispered in the rain. The path calls you on, leading away from the hollow. The frog's song rising once more, as if to fill the empty spaces left by the giant that vanished with the storm. The trail winds toward the sea now, the ground firming beneath your feet as you leave the dense forest behind. The air smells of salt and sun-warmed stone, the breeze carrying with it the ever-present chorus of frogs, brighter here as if joyful. The path opens onto a broad field scattered with low stone walls and the remnants of ancient gathering places. Bright cloth banners flutter between wooden poles, and their colors faded but proud. This is where the islanders still honor the frog's spirit, where the old guardian lives on in festival and song. You walk among the people who gather here, their faces lit with the soft glow of dawn, their laughter mingling with the croaks of the frogs hidden in the grasses and ponds. Children chase one another wearing carved frog masks painted in green and gold, their feet bare, their voices raised in mock croaks that echo their ancestors' reverence. At the heart of the field, dancers move in slow, deliberate patterns, mimicking the leap and crouch of the mountain frog. Their limbs stretch wide, their hands splay like webbed feet, and the earth seems to remember the ancient steps. You pause at a vendor's stall, where charms shaped like frogs hang from threads of woven bark. The craftsman grins as he presses one into your palm. A small thing carved from bone, its eyes round and knowing. For luck, he says, though the word feels too small for what the frog spirit means here. The charm is warm from the sun, smooth with the touch of many hands. You slip it into your pocket, feeling its weight, modest but sure. Historians still debate whether these festivals are true continuations of ancient rites or modern reinventions meant to preserve a fading heritage. Some say the rain dances were once performed to call the storm spirits others, that they were simply a celebration of survival in a land where the sea and sky could turn cruel without warning. But as the dancers move, as the frog masks grin beneath the sun, the distinction seems meaningless. The spirit endures. The people remember. An odd fact for the day's collection: in some cultures, frog figurines are placed in gardens and doorways as symbols of fertility and renewal. Perhaps the island's frog totems serve the same purpose, calling not just rain, but life itself back to the soil, back to the people, back to the heart of the land. You stand at the edge of the field as the dance reaches its peak. Drums beat like the rhythm of rain. On leaves, voices rise and chant, and the frog's natural chorus weaves through it all, as if nature itself joins the celebration. The banners snap in the breeze, the sea sparkles beyond, and for a moment it is easy to believe the mountain frog watches, still pleased with those who remember, those who honor, those who sing. Historians still debate whether the modern festival sites align with ancient sacred spaces or if the choice of location has shifted with time. But here, with the frogs' voices strong and clear, with the dancers leaping in the sun, it feels as though the old guardian walks among the people, once more invisible but ever present. You turn from the field, the charm in your pocket, a small quiet promise. The frog's chorus rising behind you, urging you toward the mountain's shadow, where the final secret waits. The path leads you upward once more, back toward the mountain's shoulder, where the mists cling to the stone like old memories too stubborn to fade. The frog's chorus is gentler here, their voices softened by distance and dawn, as if the land itself hushes in respect for what lies ahead. The trail narrows to a ribbon of rock that winds between towering crags, until at last you reach a ledge where the world seems to pause. Before you stretches the island green, gold, and gray beneath the morning sun, and behind you looms the mountain quiet now watching as it always has. You settle on the ledge, knees drawn up, hands resting on cool stone, and close your eyes. The frog's song drifts up from the valleys below, mingling with the sigh of the sea and the whisper of the breeze. And in that liminal space between waking and dream, you feel it, the presence of the frog spirit. Not in the form of carved stone or painted mask, not in the chorus of its living kin, but as something older, deeper, a hum beneath your skin, a warmth in the rock beneath your fingers, a rhythm in your heartbeat that matches the pulse of the island. You open your eyes and see it not with sight but with knowing. The frog spirit, vast and gentle, its shape rising from the mists, its wide eyes filled with the light of 1,000 dawns. It crouches across the island, cradling the land in its webbed hands, its back curved with the weight of centuries, its breath the breeze that stirs the trees. And for a moment it watches you, and you watch it, and the line between guardian and guest, between legend and life blurs, like the mists that swirl at your feet. Historians still debate whether such visions were shared by the islanders of old, or whether they are born from longing, from the human need to find meaning in the shapes of clouds and stones and dreams. But here now, it hardly matters. The spirit is real enough. Real in the song of the frogs, in the whisper of the wind, in the heartbeat of the mountain beneath your resting hand. An odd fact for you to carry down from this place: some believe frogs can sense the tremors of the earth before humans can, that their song changes when the ground is about to shift. Perhaps it is the frog's way of reminding us that the world speaks if only we are wise enough to listen. You rise at last, the vision fading with the lifting of the mist, the frog spirit dissolving into dawn's soft light. The frog's chorus swells one final time, a farewell, a blessing, a promise. And as you turn from the ledge and begin the path downward, you carry with you the knowledge that the mountain frog watches, still silent, unseen but always present, the spirit of an island that remembers. And so as you leave behind the mountain's heights and the song of the frogs fades into the distance, the island exhales a long, slow breath that carries the weight of countless storms, countless dawns, countless stories. The spirit of the mountain frog lingers in that breath, in the hush of the forest, in the salt, sweet wind that brushes your cheek. You walk slowly now, each step a gentle farewell to the stones, the carvings, the pools, the ruined temples and courts where the frog once reigned in song and symbol. The island softens behind you, the path widening into familiar ground, the chorus of frogs, a memory that hums in your bones. And as you pause one last time to look back at the mountain cloaked in morning light, the mists rise once more, blurring the shapes of rock and tree, until all that remains is the gentle echo of a croak. Soft, steady, timeless. The guardian sleeps, but its spirit lives on, cradling the island as it always has. Good night, traveler. Rest easy beneath the mountain's gaze.